No.
And there we go. Welcome to the Maple Minds podcast. I'm Christy, that's Rob and Polly, and we are three Canadians from British Columbia who like to, discuss provincial, federal, and international politics. Today on the roster, though, it's just provincial and federal. We're keeping it in Canada today because there's just so much to talk about in Canada and in British Columbia. We are live every Tuesday at 1 o'clock Pacific time. And once in a while, we'll do a little evening live. The one we had last week, I have to tell you, it was fantastic. I got so much good feedback from that live. I can't wait to do it again. But for today we're going to start off talking about the mess that is the party. I've been asked in my comments to always do this when I say party in relation to OneBC. OneBC is a party made up of two MLAs, Dallas Brody and Tara Armstrong, who broke up this past weekend. I made a video about it if anybody wants any details of that, but I just want to dive right into Rob's opinion. What do you think?
I think it was only a matter of time in a way. I mean, really, it's interesting to see though. I'm really interested to see what's going to come of everything now. Like we're like, what is the end game here? Like, where are we going to get to? That's the interesting part because I don't know. Like, I mean, it's not over. I mean, it's just there's I don't know. There's something
It's
more
definitely
coming.
not over. And I know right now they've gone sort of offline. Brody, I believe Brody and Armstrong have said, "Okay, we're gonna talk about this." I think they both know that without the other, they don't have party status, which means they don't have access to that $658,000 that they get for being a party. They don't get questions in Parliament, which they're using a lot to push their bigoted agenda, which is to turn society against transgender people and Indigenous communities. You can argue that that's not their intention, but that is whatever their intention is. That's what they're doing. That is the impact of what they're doing. I think that they're going to want to stay a party. I think that doing this all publicly I think it was entertaining for people like me who want to see this party not be a party anymore. Pardon me. Interestingly, I saw Paul Ratchford, who's in this. He is the director for OneBC. He is a failed conservative candidate in Vancouver, and he had tweeted support for a petition that goes to recalling Dallas Brody. And we talked about this during our live. Neither Brody nor Armstrong are eligible for recall until April 20th. Pardon me, I've misspoken. He is supporting a recall of David Eby. Sorry about that. David Eby isn't eligible for recall until April 19th. So here's a guy who is the director of a political party in British Columbia who is suggesting that, oh, there's a recall going on for the premier right now. There can't be until April 19th. I think it's just a petition. I think it's a data phishing petition. I think this guy is just trying to collect as many anti-EB names and support as he can so that he can use it because his movement took a big hit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it feels like it's all about that. What's that guy's name?
Othman McLoufie.
McLoufie, right? Like that extremist, racist, homophobic. Like just they let him go, and then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose because they let him go because of his beliefs, and he was a little too far right. And they're like, no, that's where we're going. You're out. He's in. Like,
Yeah.
That's craziness. Like, it's craziness that they have these kind of people in their party, like openly. Like I don't know. Like, it's too much. It's too much, and I hope there's no place for them whatsoever.
Okay, so I hope you're right, but I disagree that it's crazy. I think that it is predictable. I think that the messages that OneBC had sent. I don't care what Dallas Brody says about, oh, I like everybody. No, you don't. You don't like the Indigenous community. You're actively causing harm to the Indigenous community by pushing denialism, by trying to normalize language that pushes denialism, by pushing stereotypes of Indigenous people that hurt Indigenous people, by promoting racism towards Indigenous people. I think anybody with that platform who acts surprised that the racists came and said, hey, I want to push some racist stuff on this platform. How are you surprised? How can you push racism towards one community and then say, oh, I have no idea why these people are here?
Yeah, this guy's the next level, though. I mean, really, and I mean, the funny thing is, I mean, he's a dual citizen, U.S., Canada, and he openly advocates for a 51st state for Canada. Like, these people, like, I can't handle them. I can't, like, what are they? Just
He
go
also
somewhere else.
advocates for things that that Hitler talked about, right? Talks about
Yeah,
blood and soil politics, which is like straight out of the Hitler book. Talks about eugenics, which that German guy, I don't want to say his name too much. I don't want to get the live in trouble. But you guys know what I mean. He's repeating the same messages. And then according to Dallas Brody, when I don't know if she's just a friend or if she's an assistant or whatever, name's Masha Kleiner, she apparently said, hey, these guys are putting out, racist stuff, anti-Semitic stuff, misogynistic stuff. Here's the text in real time. We're not talking about when this guy was a kid. He's 22. We're not talking about a long time ago. We're talking about like present day tweets, these harmful things that he's putting out. And they turfed her as well. So Brody said they're looking into the legalities. I think they're probably looking into the legalities of Kleiner's firing, and they're looking into the legalities of if they're able to remove Dallas Brody, because she's saying, no, nobody removed me. I'm still the leader. What are you talking about? I'm the leader. As far as I'm concerned, I'm the leader.
yeah. Who's the leader? I am. Who
Yep.
else is the leader? No, I'm the leader.
Yep. It's still my gig. It's still my job.
I mean, when you only have two people in your party, I mean, that's an interesting spot to be in. So I don't know, if one group can vote one person out, how do you vote the other person in then? Without the other person's support, like you can't. So I don't know. I feel like they're stuck.
I think another important point to bring up about this controversy over this 122-year-old staffer, Othman McLoufie, a lot of people know who Rachel Gilmore is. She's got a YouTube channel called Bubble Pop, and there is an episode in there, or a show in there, where she gives direct quotes from Othman McLoufie and from I believe somebody from Dominion. And they're talking about introducing Nazi ideals into mainstream politics, into normalizing it so that people in mainstream politics will accept that and therefore put it forward in mainstream politics, which I think is really super scary. And I think a lot of people need to talk about that.
Yeah. I think people really have to understand what their agenda is and what their belief system is. And I mean, it's the wild thing is they're not keeping it under wraps. It's very public. It's very out there. I mean, that McLoufie guy's on X posting that stuff anyway. Like,
he went private
knows.
now.
Oh, did it?
Which Masha Kleiner had pointed out, like, hey, if there's nothing wrong with these guys' messages, how come he's putting them, on private? I think also there's also a rumor. So if you look at the credits from that video that they put out, we've spoken about the video before. It's called Making a Killing. It's Dallas Brody referred to it as an educational documentary, and I'm going to use the fingers anymore. It's not an educational documentary. Educational documentaries don't come with disclaimers of, oh, this might not be true at the end. But besides the it might not be true legal disclaimers, they also have a lot of credits, written and directed by Tim Thielman. He was the chief of staff for OneBC. Paul Ratchford, that I've brought up before, the failed conservative candidate, he was also credited, I can't remember with what. And then there's somebody named Perry Ander Miller, which if you Google Periander Miller, like there's nobody in BC named Periander Miller, but there's a person with that name credited of being marketing something and an assistant videographer. And rumor is on the internet that that is Othman McCluthie, but they didn't want McCluthie, pardon me, but they didn't want to put his name because when you Google it, all the racist stuff comes up. They didn't want to be associated with that, so they gave him this pen name of Periander, which was a Greek tyrant, and Miller after Stephen Miller, the White House chief of staff, who has known to not disagree with Nazi messages.
Yeah, I don't know. The whole thing's just wild to me. It's just wild. So, I mean, stay tuned, everybody. And there's more to come. I mean,
there is more to come. And I think it's very important to pay attention to who is, like, in light of all of this. And again, nobody should be surprised that these guys attracted that kind of content producer, in my opinion. If you've attracted somebody who thinks, hey, this is a good audience for Nazi messages, you might want to look at your content and wonder why your audience would be good for that kind of message. And I think Dallas Brody pretending that she doesn't know why, I think is absolutely wild. But now I'd like to lean this into how this connects to the Conservative Party. So from my point of view, there's two things. Number one, everybody who is in all of this conversation, whether it's McCluthie or it's Paul Ratchford or it's Tim Thielman or it's Dallas Brody, Tara Armstrong, they've all been vetted by the Conservative Party. They've all been part of the conservative machine at some point. So if they have these views, Conservative Party, is it fair to say that they must at least not disagree with them, or not disagree with them strong enough that they're willing to take their aid and their access to the conservative audience for this kind of message? And number two, a lot of this turmoil that we're seeing in OneBC is also rumored to have been started with Paul Ratchford and somebody else reaching out to the Conservative Party and talking about a possible merge. And like, what merge? Brody was kicked out. Like, Tara Armstrong would just go back. Like, it's not a whole party merging. It's two people.
Yeah.
Anyways,
how do you call it? How do you call it a merge when two people leave a party to create a party of two, and then let's merge
and then
what?
Go back. Like, is that a merge?
It's not. But you know what? Actually, the funny thing is, if they're using the words merge, then in my mind, that's the Conservative Party saying, yeah, we're okay with OneBC's platform and their ideologies, and we want them to be part of our party. That could be the case. I mean, that could just be, hey, we're okay with this. And was it all a ploy all along for them to go super far right, throw everything out there, gain a lot of support from, the far right extreme people, and then pull them all back into the party? I don't know.
So first of all, this is just rumor. I don't know this as fact. I want to be clear about that. It is just rumored that some people were in talks with the Conservative Party about joining forces. Sorry, I just wanted to clear that up. And then I forgot where I was going with it.
Yeah, I think it's super dangerous just to even have these people in politics in BC, like, let alone anything else. I mean, the fact that we have two elected officials that have these ideologies, and they've been elected in our province to represent areas of BC is concerning.
It is. And the fact that they have backup candidates like Jim McMurdy for Delta South, and they have another one too. I can't remember his name. Maybe it's Brad Westman from Coquitlam. I'm not sure. Or Brad West, sorry. But I do know that there was another one. Mike Harris, I believe, who tweeted, I'll see, yeah, this isn't what I signed up for. And he was also going to be a candidate and he dipped. And he even said in his tweet, it's now time for me to go back to people that I have fought with and go try to make new relationships and try to repair the bridges that I broke coming over here. But I'm not staying over here with this soap opera. I'm paraphrasing, but that was basically his message.
Yeah.
But it is concerning that they still, even with this revelation of this dispute about, because they're not denying the dispute about this guy. And then the head of the Dominion Society, Daniel Tyree, had tweeted out like a copy of Brody's video, and he didn't say, I deny anything that Brody's saying about me, because Brody brought up the support that he had shown on Tara Armstrong's post. He had posted, Team Tara, and he also posted that the difference between libertarian and nationalist, which is what they identify in as, and they identify as Canadian nationalists, not white nationalists, but really it's a white nationalist movement. It is. He says that the difference between them is sort of the balls to be able to do what needs to be done. And it sounds like he's just calling them chicken shits who aren't willing to do what needs to be done. And I think what he believes needs to be done is very scary to anybody who isn't white and straight.
That's interesting. It's funny. I do know the libertarian candidate for, was it Langley Cloverdale?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So he's a nice guy, interesting guy. We should have him on the show.
Yeah. Okay. Get him on.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I'm sure he'd be totally into it.
And I'm going to talk about that riding too, actually, when we talk about the Conservative leadership race, which we can get into, because we've talked about how OneBC is sort of trying to bleed into the Conservatives. I think that when they choose a new leader, it'll be indicative of which way British Columbia Conservatives want to go. So we saw BC Conservative voters go further to the right in our provincial election. We saw this with the support that BC Conservatives got over BC United. And I think that a lot of more center-leaning Conservatives would have preferred BC United candidates. And I know that many were pissed off that they didn't have that option, because BC United, again, nope, we're going to fold. We're going to give all of our support to somebody who leans a little further right with John Rustad and the Conservatives. I think that the leadership race, which should be, I believe, somewhere in June. I think that they'll announce it in January and say, hey, 6 months leadership race. And I think that they pick somebody in June. But if that changes, we'll let you know. Nothing's been announced yet. I think that whoever wins that will be an indicator of voters in BC, which way they're leaning. If it's somebody like Aaron Gunn, then they've gone to the right. If it's somebody like Darrell Jones,
Darrell's deals.
If it's somebody like him, to be fair, I don't know what Darrell's politics are.
Yeah.
I have some feedback about him as a candidate, as a business person, but as for politics, I have no idea where this guy stands on issues that are important to me. So I'm gonna withhold my support. I'm not ready to shake my pom-poms for him yet, but I do believe that he has a great opportunity to have appeal to people who want to vote Conservatives, who don't want to lean right. Again, saying that if he comes out with a whole bunch of pro-right politics, I'll take that all back. But yeah. I believe he is more center-leaning. But what do you think?
Yeah, like just on like to take it from face value, I believe he is more center, like from,
Tell everybody who he is. It's you know what? Oh. It just occurred to me that there's a lot of people outside of British Columbia who had no idea what we were doing when we both went Darrell's Deals.
Yeah. Was he the president he's the president of Save On Food. So he's the president of Save On Foods, and he would get on and do a bunch of commercials. He would always be on the commercials, and they had this thing called Darrell's Deals, where they would have different deals every week or every month, and he would be out there promoting those deals, Darrell's Deals. So whenever we see this guy, we know it's Darrell's Deals. That's what we know him as.
Yeah, he's got that. When I was watching him talk about considering running for the leadership, his voice, when you repeatedly hear, when you're a British Columbian who has repeatedly heard a guy's soothing voice telling you cheerily that you're going to save money on some food this week, day after day we heard this guy. There's a familiarity of something positive. I think that plays to his favor. I think that his started as a bag boy, made it to president of the whole company. I think that that really plays to his favor. He started in, I think, 1970 something as a bag boy in Cranbrook, worked his way up through the company, and then became the president of Save On Foods in 2012, and then became the president of Jim Pattison Foods. He retired in February of this year. So that made me wonder, because I wasn't even aware that he retired until I started looking at this. Did he ditch me? Rob, I'm going to keep yapping. Okay. So Darrell Jones, president of Save On, then now the president of former president of Jim Pattison Foods. You dipped on me, didn't you?
Just kidding. I was trying to read the comments.
Oh, I don't know. I can't even see the comments. Anyways, he retired in February, and I was just aware that he was retired when I was looking into his leadership bid. I wonder if he was considering this all along, when he sees how bad the state of politics is. But he talked a little bit about how politics seems to have been taking pages out of an ideology book instead of a policy book, policies that are actually going to help people with affordability and such. I also think that it plays to his favor when people think president of a grocery chain. There's a big negative feeling because they think of like maybe one of the three, right? One of the three Canadians, because there's only five companies or five grocery chains basically in Canada, two Americans, Walmart and Costco, and then three Canadians, Loblaw, Metro, and Sobeys. And the reason that there's only three is that in the late 90s, there was a great grocery consolidation where Loblaw, Metro, and Sobeys started snatching up all of the smaller grocery chains. And I think it plays to Darrell Jones' favor that he is one of the only grocery chains that survived getting gobbled up. Safeway got gobbled up. IGA got gobbled up. There's a lot of similar size grocery chains that got gobbled up by one of those three guys, and Save On wasn't one of them. Now, there's a whole bunch of arguments for why and how diverse the Jim Pattison Group is and how that was protected. And it wasn't just in the grocery industry. Still, a win is a win. This guy is the anti-hero because they think of Galen Weston, the guy who everybody has decided is the enemy of the Canadians in regards to food prices. So you've got this anti-hero, and hey, I was able to resist that. I was able to keep the integrity of Save On Foods, even though they did some stuff that I disagree with. The big overall point is that he's the anti-Galen.
Yeah.
That's how I would, if I was his campaign manager, that's what I would campaign on.
Yeah, I think it's funny because Galen Weston got such a bad rap because he was the one that was called out by Jagmeet Singh, who called him out, wanted to bring him into and all it was a ploy by the government in the first place to try and post blame on someone else. And it's kind of like, really? Now you just sort of drag this person through the mud. But I do know people in the Save On Foods business, and they've got a interesting take on Darrell Jones.
Are you willing to share?
I can, if you guys are okay with it. But
I am.
But essentially, they basically said he's not as nice of a guy as he comes across on TV.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, according to unnamed sources. But essentially, their take on him isn't as rosy as the whole, his comforting voice and, his Darrell deals and whatever. They've got a different a view of him. And
of course, I think everybody who works for somebody who's in the public eye has a different perception of them than those in the public who are providing the eyes.
There are some people that are who they are, like this is who you are, and you know, the people with that real integrity, those people that can be who they are the entire time, no matter who they're around or who who they're with, who they're talking to. If you're still that same person, that's I love that.
You
But
know
if you're
what?
the type,
I agree with you. I lose respect when when people use different tones with different as they perceive different classes, right? Like something comes to mind of somebody that I don't respect ripping the shit out of a server. Um, just because they think, oh, a server is only making minimum wage, I can pick on this person. I don't dig that. Um,
yeah, I
but
also find
I respect people when they keep, like, when they talk with everybody as if they're in the same tax bracket.
yeah, it's also funny. Like I always look at different, like even when you look at athletes, say golf. Uh, you had what's his name? The bad boy of golf. Uh, and I just lost his name. Uh, anyway, he always drinking, smoking, just a disaster. Famous for always being drunk and disorderly and whatever. But everyone just took him for who he was because that's just who he was, right? And
Kind of like Dennis
you know,
Rodman.
yeah, like there was just this view of this person and whatever. I mean, that's who he is. And he never went up on the podium, and he never went under the podium. He was always where he was. And then you look at the Tiger Woods, who was put on this podium above everyone, like this guy is the greatest, and then all the controversy of him,
Yeah.
doing what he did, and now he's in the mud. And you sit there and go, well, I mean, that just sort of shows that if you are who you are, like, and you're out there, and this is just who you are, it's better to be that than some person that's pretending to be this person and really isn't, right?
I want to I
And I
want to
think
circle
people
back to
view that.
that when we get to the Poilievre stuff. I do have a couple more things that I want to talk about with the BC Conservative race,
Yeah.
but and the by-election that, if anybody who isn't a sitting MLA is going, but we will get back to the how much easier it is to be in the public eye, uh, and weather scandals if you're genuine, and people who aren't genuine when we talk about Poilievre. But back to the leadership race. So besides Darrell Jones announcing that he's thinking about maybe running, we've got another person, Aaron Gunn, who has been in the news for controversies regarding things he has said about residential schools that lead to normalizing language that has to do with denialism. When he was running for MP, there were Indigenous leaders and Indigenous community members who really came out and spoke against him, but he did win. Now, if he were to run for the leader of the provincial Conservatives, he's going to have to step down from his MP seat, and he would have to have a by-election somewhere and win a seat as an MLA. Same with if Darrell Jones wins, he's going to have to get somebody to step down so that he can win a by-election. The only person that I've heard about who is an existing MLA who has expressed interest is Peter Milobar. He used to be, or Milobar. He was the mayor of Kamloops for a while, and he's a sitting MLA, so he would be able to just get right in there in Kamloops. But the other guys would need to win a by-election. So then I was like, hey, so what did Pierre do when he needed to get a seat? He went to the safest conservative riding. So then I'm like looking at who's got the safest conservative riding. And it's a much different challenge for a provincial politician to win the riding than it was for Pierre to go into a riding. When Pierre went into a riding that won by 85%, the highest percentage win in BC was Langley Abbotsford, Harmon Bagu at 55.65, so just under 56%. That's not a gimme, right? It's not as strong of a possibility as an 85% one. And that would be if Harman would step down. I think that if it was Aaron Gunn, because Harman said that he will run only if Aaron Gunn doesn't run. So if Aaron Gunn doesn't run, Harman's going to run. But if Aaron does, he'll step back and let Aaron. I guess he supports Aaron. So I see him possibly stepping aside in his riding, maybe. Another one riding that was run strongly was Tara Armstrong. So maybe these guys are just going to wait for us to recall her and then, use that seat. That's a possibility. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just speculating with my opinion over here.
But they could. Oh yeah, I guess they have to wait for the recall. They can't just run in that riding because no one actually. Yeah, the Conservatives
Yeah,
don't
it has to be
own it.
vacated. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, too much, too much. But it'll be interesting.
It's going to be an
If Aaron
interesting
Gunn,
6 months. I think that the campaigning, um, I think the campaigning is also going to be indicative of which way conservatives want to go. If we see a big mudslinging, that guy bad, that guy bad, that guy bad, you have to vote for me because those guys are all shitty. I think if you see that one, I think that that's more of a lean to the right. I think that if you see a more pragmatic approach, like this is how I'm going to make things affordable for you, I think that that would be a more lean to the center or appealing to traditional conservatives instead of the ones that are conservatives because they want to push residential school denialism and anti-SOGI, in my opinion.
Darrell's going to bring his deals to politics. I'm going to bring my deals.
I think also his experience in addressing everybody who he had like 30,000 people working for him, right? I think his experience in addressing large crowds like that, I think that his experiencing in managing a team that size, I think management is a transferable skill. Somebody on Twitter that I respect a lot had said, I don't know if this guy has a chance because he doesn't have any experience in politics. And I'm like, but he has exceptional experience in management. And like I said, I think managing people is managing people, whether you're managing people in a political party, whether you're managing people in food retail, whether you're managing people on a construction site. I think managing people is managing people.
Yeah. And I mean, let's face it. I mean, part of politics is business, so to have a business mindset, I mean, that only aids you in running for office, really, because I mean, you're managing people's money essentially. You're managing a business, and that business is British Columbia. So
I think that the reason, and again, I'd have to see this guy's politics, but the reason that I think he's going to have appeal is the same reason that I think that Rob Ashton has appeal, and that is real guy appeal. I think that they bring, even though that they're presidents and they're in positions that the majority of people aren't going to see in their lives, I think that they bring an every guy appeal to a position that only other politicians are running for at a time that trust for politicians is at a low, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's true. I agree.
All right, so now let's get to Poilievre. We're a little bit past the halfway mark, so let's move into federal politics. And when you talked about people who aren't genuine with the public, people who aren't genuine with their audience, drum roll, please. There is nobody who is more inauthentic, in my opinion, than Mr. Pierre Poilievre. I believe strongly that the reason for that is because he is a career politician. The guy's only ever been a politician. Paperboy doesn't count. He's only ever been a politician, meaning, and I brought this up before, that everybody in his life has only ever engaged with him as a politician. You treat politicians differently than you treat people that you regard as your peers. So I think that he doesn't know himself enough to be genuine. I think that the plastic version of Pierre is because there is only a plastic version of Pierre, this guy who is playing the role of a politician and doesn't actually know who he is. I think that's why he's so awkward too. And I think that's why he's not quick, because he has no confidence in who he is, because he's playing a role.
Here, the problem with Pierre really is I don't know if anyone's really put him in his place or sat him down and said, "Hey, you're acting like you're 12-year-old. Like you you really have to grow up. Like you have to grow up. You have to get over things. You got to just start like actually being a real person. You know, like I, I I can't watch the guy. I mean, it's painful to watch, especially like his smug look when he's answering questions. He's just got
He
this
doesn't
look
answer
of,
questions. Rob, he
well,
doesn't
yeah,
answer questions.
yeah, never mind. When people are asking him questions, he's just got this look, and it's like I'm better than all of you. I'm better than everyone that's here. Why are you even asking me this question? You don't deserve to ask me this question. Nobody deserves to ask me this question. And the answers he gives like are like how baffling are your answers that aren't answers to these questions. Like you're deflecting, you're lying, you're misinforming people, like you're doing everything but answer a question in an authentic manner. Like you're literally just sitting there spewing garbage and completely deflecting on the question. Like I've never seen anything like it in my life. Like I honestly I just watch and I just think to myself, how is this possible in today's day and age that we have a leader of a political party who can't answer a question and has to deflect and misinform people and start talking about like it's so
Okay, can I
I don't
correct
know.
you? You have seen this before. You see this all the time in the United States of America.
Oh yeah,
You see the
Donald
president
Trump.
act like this,
Oh,
and you see all of his heads of state. You see the Department of Homeland Security acting like this. You see the director of FBI acting like this. You know what I mean? This
yeah,
is their pattern. It is deflect, it is attack, and it is most importantly, it is never, ever, ever admit a mistake. Ever. Doesn't matter how glaringly obvious the evidence against you is. You throw yourself on that grenade and you do not, absolutely do not admit to a mistake. Now, recently, Pierre faced interviews with Vasi Kapelos on CTV and Rosemary Barton on CBS. And they both asked him, I'm going to make clips of his interviews later. They both asked him, is the fact that, you're bleeding, guys, I'm paraphrasing, but you've
yeah,
lost two to floor crossing and one rumored to be floor crossing and ended up resigning. Is that a reflection on your leadership?
yeah,
Immediate no, and into why Carney is bad. Carney bad, Carney bad, Carney bad, Carney bad. And the amount of dancing and deflecting and non-answering and attacking instead. I know. Do you know the acronym DARVO?
no,
That's what's happening. Deflect, attack, and I don't remember the. I'm gonna look it up because everybody else, I learned about that on the internet, and that is 100% the strategy. The strategy is absolutely do not ever admit that I could have done anything better. Just keep up the
yeah,
marketing tool that is I am perfect. You're so lucky to have me. I'm the only person that can help you with what you need.
yeah. So it's deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. It's a
Yes.
reaction that perpetrators of wrongdoing, such as abusers, sexual offenders, may display in response to being held accountable for their behavior.
Well, I
And
would say that
how
Pierre
narcissists
doesn't
use
even
it.
deny it. He just avoids it like
Yeah,
entirely.
but is that a way of denying it? Just
Yeah. Pretending
by
pretending that
just
that
pretending it
question
doesn't
wasn't even
exist?
asked is a form of denial. Absolutely. Like I said, I've got Rosemary and Vasi's interviews, and I'm going to play just the clips of how he addresses questions.
It actually reminds me, there used to be this old commercial I used to see on TV all the time where it was, I think it was had something to do with, do you know what your kids are doing or whatever? And a
At 10
parent kind
o'clock
of,
at night to make sure that to remind them that they had kids.
it's no, 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 this is different, where the parent opens the door and their kid the window's open, they've got their bag and they're about to go out the window to go party for the night. And the parent's looking at them, they're looking at the parent. And then all of a sudden, this person in this outfit starts dancing. Like, nothing to see here, nothing to see here. Like,
Right.
and that's exactly like whenever I think of Pierre Poilievre, I think of that commercial where there's
I know
like
which one
someone
you mean.
dancing, going, nothing to see. There's nothing to see.
Yeah.
You don't see nothing.
So, I have thoughts about his upcoming review, and Mr. Poilievre, if you see this, you still have 9 days left to resign, so that I don't lose a bet. Just saying. But if not, he's going to be facing a leadership review at the end of January. So, here's my thoughts. If you're the Liberals and you have convinced other people to cross, even if it's just one, which would give them a majority, you know that that's going to be like, it should be a nail in this guy's coffin. Do you wait until before or after the review? Because if you wait before the review, you're pretty much guaranteeing that the guy's probably going to lose his position, and then you'll be facing a different opponent. Or do you wait, and then after he passes his review, then do you announce a floor crossing, which then means a little bit of a middle finger to conservatives, and now you're stuck with this guy for 3 years. This guy who's bleeding support, this guy that people don't want to work for, this guy that people are willfully leaving. You're stuck with him for 3 years. So
you mean waiting till after the Christmas party where your secret Santa couldn't give you your gift?
Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
I love how they were crying about that. I want my gift back.
Anything to make them look bad, anything to make them look like the enemy, anything to make them look like the oppressor, anything to make them look like the villain, really.
So I look at it from a different standpoint, though. Like, I think anyone who's going to cross before that leadership review is going to cross before the leadership review. But I think there's actually a number of MPs that are waiting to see what happens at the leadership review. And I would guess that there's a number of them that are, if Poilievre passes the leadership review and he stays as our leader, I'm out. I've had enough. And I think there's a number of them that are like, I still believe in this party. I believe in the Conservative Party. I want to be, the one of the MPs for this Conservative Party for my constituents, blah, blah, blah. But if Poilievre continues to be the leader of this party, I can't do it. I can't do it anymore. And I'm out of here. And I wonder whether or not there are MPs that are going to the people that are going to be doing the leadership review and saying, just so you know, if you guys decide to keep this guy, I might not be around. I might not be around for the long haul. And
well, I wonder if, but here's the thing though, a lot of not a lot, it's not fair for me to say, part of the complaints that I've seen is the bullying and the tactics of this party. So would you give your bullies a heads up that you were gonna leave them? I don't think so. I don't believe, especially when you look at what happened to Matt Genereux. When Matt Genereux was rumored to be thinking about crossing, they had posted on social media, a communication from the opposition leader's office saying, oh, did you know that this guy actually bought a house outside of his riding, outside of his province? Like, they totally outed him. And I think that sends a message of, hey fuckers, if you thinking about leaving me too, I'm going to do the same thing to you. I got stuff on all of you. I bet. I don't know. I don't think I'm probably that far off.
I'm thinking though, like when I'm talking about it, is I'm talking about people that might be, friendly with some of these guys. Like they're all sort of kind of frat brothers together, but behind the scenes of Poilievre that aren't quite happy with his leadership style. And they're kind of sitting in the background going, yeah, like, come on, bud. Like, you got to do something here. Like, you can't allow this guy to, like, literally, if you guys want to vote this guy back in, I don't know what I'm doing. FYI.
Here's the thing,
Yeah.
though. If the change in campaign manager had been not the outhouse guy, I might agree with you. I think a different campaign manager who would acknowledge that the present tone is not effective enough to be able to win. It's effective with a certain crowd, but that certain crowd is a small minority of the country, and they're not going to win just playing to this crowd. So I think that in my opinion, if you had a campaign manager who was encouraging a different tone, which I believe we would have seen by now, instead of this doubling down on his year-end interviews of no, there's nothing for me to change, which he says without saying anything about completely ignoring the leadership question. You're basically saying, I'm not going to address it because there's no need to. I'm doing everything perfectly.
But wouldn't it have been Pierre Poilievre himself that would have made that decision?
I don't believe that. I don't believe that
No,
any of
you
these
think it
guys
was-
make any of the decisions. That's just my own thing. I don't think that any of them speak as just themselves. I believe that there's always team feedback and strategy behind. If there wasn't strategy, they wouldn't have teams. I don't believe that they just go to their teams once in a while and then say, okay, I'm going to go meet all the time and then just ask you guys a little bit. I think that it's a team discussion every single step they take, and this decision to pretend like these questions aren't being asked, to pretend that the leadership isn't in question with some people. I think that that's a deliberate decision by more than one person.
It's interesting though, because I know that there's been like one of the biggest knocks on Pierre Poilievre has been the fact that he doesn't listen to anyone, and that everyone needs to listen to him, and it's his way or no way, and that's sort of been something that people have talked about, where he really has just sort of taken the reins and basically said, I don't care what any of you guys say, and he'll be like, feed me ideas. No, that's not good. That's not good. That's
But I
not
also
good.
think
Okay, we're going to go with my idea.
I think he probably surrounds himself with
With
yes
yes men.
men.
100%.
Especially if he's the kind of guy that can't take criticism.
Yep.
Like Jenny Burns was his ex. I think probably if any was my exes, it would just be more fighting, not less. But I don't know their dynamic. But I think that Outhouse having a more mega style and not less, I think that that's a deliberate decision by Poilievre. I don't think that would be like a team thing, but I think that the team goes along with it. I think you bring up a good point where he's like a my way or the highway. I still think what I think about the team. I just think that they're probably people who agree with him. Whether or not they genuinely agree with him or not, no idea. But I think that they're probably, yes, Pierre, how high do you want me to jump, Pierre? I'll bend over, Pierre, kind of people.
Yeah, I think no matter what, I think at the end of the day, if Pierre Poilievre passes this review and he continues to be the leader of the Conservative Party, there will be people jumping. They'll be jumping, like for sure they will be. I think people are just waiting on it. They're essentially kind of like, well, we're just going to see what ends up happening. And in my mind, there'd be a lot of backroom politics if he's not reinstated as the leader. Like if he doesn't pass the leadership review, then I think there would have been a lot of talk in the background around him and people going, yeah, we can't do this.
I agree on the waiting thing. And before I would have said that the deliberate waiting or crossing before, if there was any intention, would have been like liberal strategy. But now I want to change my mind after listening to you to say that now I think that you're right, that they're going to wait. But I don't think that, I think that they'll wait and that they will jump ship if he lasts. If he doesn't, I don't think we see anything right away. I don't think we see even strong support for the Conservatives from people who may have considered crossing. I think that they just shut up until we see who gets put into place. If somebody who is very Pierre-like, who's very strongly MAGA, if that somebody like that goes into place and they double down on that kind of tone and want to make it worse, then absolutely, then I see the think we see the crossing. But I think that they wait to see who the replacement is first. And then if the replacement is somebody who's a little bit more moderate, a little bit more Aaron O'Toole-ish, I think that we never know that they were even considering crossing unless people in the know try to use it in a dirty politics way down the road, which I hope doesn't happen, honestly.
Yeah, I think the only win for the Conservative Party right now is for them to say, thanks, Pierre, for all your hard work, but you're done. And they bring in, someone that's going to be more moderate, because I think, to your point, is they bring in someone that's even further right than Pierre, more polarizing. And I could see people going, holy crap, this is not what I signed up for. I can't, the Jamil Javanis of the world. I can't.
How about Dallas Brody?
Or
Do you know that somebody who talks politics on the internet, who has way more followers than me, actually said with a straight face that he believes that Dallas Brody should lead the Conservatives? I can't make this up.
Yeah, I don't know. I just this whole thing's become super disheartening to me. Especially from like a conservative standpoint, where we've gone so far backwards. And the only thing that I find solace in is the fact that the Conservatives did not get put into power because of the fact that they started going a little too far to the right, and just the fact that Poilievre is a disaster. And it is what it is. But I miss the days of Conservatives being center right and not right
yeah
and right. And I don't know. It should be interesting. I mean, we're gonna find out. I couldn't see anyone else crossing right now. I think it's too close to a leadership review. Like, I think there's too many people waiting to see what ends up happening. Because I mean, what you jump ship and you go to the other side, and all of a sudden Pierre Poilievre's out, and then they put someone else in that you're like, oh, well, I don't mind him. I'm going to cross back. And it's kind of like, huh? And actually, I don't even know what the rules are on crossing back. If they do oust Poilievre and someone else more moderate comes in, do those people, are they able to just say, okay, well, you know what, I'm back?
I don't know. Polly, do you know? I can't get into my laptop right now either.
Because it would be pretty interesting to try and figure out whether or not,
Yeah.
What was the question?
If are floor crossers able to cross back?
Oh, that's a good question.
I would think that they're able to, but
Does
don't quote me.
Does anybody in our chat know?
I can't see comments. Please let me know is Lori there? Lori would know.
No, Lori's not there.
Lori.
Let's see.
They need to be accepted back, says disability advocate.
They need to be they would be accepted back. Nobody's going to say no to numbers. They're not. They're not. Especially if it means kicking down a majority, right? They would lose so many voters if they said no. That would be such an emotional decision and such a poor one, in my opinion.
Yeah, it should be interesting. I mean, I'm not sure. Either way, we're not probably going to find out until after that leadership review. I cannot see Poilievre passing his leadership review. I just can't. It would surprise
you know what,
me.
honestly, I can't believe the guy's made it this far. And he just because he doesn't have Canada's support doesn't mean he doesn't have support within the Conservative Party. He's got strong support within the Conservative Party. I think a lot of that is lack of anybody to replace him, but he does. He does.
Yes, a member of Parliament in Canada who has crossed the floor is permitted to cross back or even join a third party, as there are no federal laws preventing them from changing their political.
You just hop all over the house.
Yeah,
sure.
So I wonder. Yeah,
I'm okay with that. honestly, I really am. I think it's
Yeah.
okay.
So those guys that have jumped ship
They can jump
are
back.
basically waiting for a leadership review, and if it comes back, the right leader, gets put into place, and Poilievre is out, then maybe they will be back. But if they go,
Individual party caucuses have their own internal rules regarding the expulsion or readmission of members, which sometimes requires a vote.
yeah, which
We'd have
you
to
know,
look to see what their rules are.
I think at the end of the day, those conservative MPs, if they want to get back in the party, they'll be basically saying, "Hey, we didn't agree with Poilievre. We believe in the new direction of the Conservative Party, and we're ready to come back." And the Conservative Party would be like, "Well, we really didn't like what you did, but okay, come back. You can come back to us as long as you vote the same way that we ask you to vote. That's it. That's all I'm looking for." Yeah.
So we
I don't
only
know.
have a few minutes left, but I wanted to touch on some controversy around Mark Carney, and it might seem small, but I have an opinion on it. And that is the criticism that he's receiving for preferring British spelling to Canadian spelling. Here's the thing. I understand why he uses British spelling instead of Canadian spelling, and that's because he spent so much time in Britain. That's what he's used to. Does he not have a team? Does he not have somebody to proofread his stuff and just fix the spelling? You're the leader of Canada, and there are a lot of instances where Canadian spelling is the same as British instead of American. But in the instances where it isn't, use the Canadian version. Use the Canadian version. In the editing world, they have what's called style books. And that's so that all professional or style guides, that's so all professional communication has consistent grammar, has consistent, what you put a capital on, what you don't put a capital on, what gets bold font. Everything is detailed of how to make everything consistent while addressing the public. You're addressing the Canadian public, spell it in Canadian. Don't use another country's. I understand why it's not okay. You're the prime minister. Your job is to communicate with Canadians. You have tools. You have a proofreader on your laptop. Set it to set it to Canada. You have people around you that could take a quick look at the stuff that you write and make sure that it's Canadian. I think that by failing to do this, I think it's a disrespect to Canadians. That's my rant. No, I'm not done. I'm going to add something. There's also a style guide for Indigenous communications. And because we've talked about other Indigenous issues on the show and in our lives, I'm going to bring this up too. There's actually a style guide that helps people who are outside of Indigenous communities write about things that relate to Indigenous communities with the grammar and the spelling and what gets capitals and doesn't. And there's more to it, but that's the general idea of how to write, to be respectful of their language and of their customs and traditions as somebody outside of the community. I think that if you're talking to a Canadian community, that you have to spell it in Canadian spelling. And I think that the prime minister of our country should have a plethora of tools at his disposal to make that happen, to show the smallest amount of respect for the people that voted for him. Now my rant is over.
Tomato. Who cares? Come on. Let's all be real. Let's all be real here. Like, who cares how you spell catalyst? Honestly, I don't care. I don't care. Screw it. Like anyone who thinks this is a big deal. Come on. A couple
I
words.
think that. So personally, it doesn't bother me. Personally, I can read through it and it doesn't bother me. But I think it's a huge mistake to do as the prime minister, because not everybody thinks like us. And if your opponent is able to use it as a wedge issue, look at this guy. This guy's loyalties, he doesn't even use our spelling. His loyalties must be with another country. Why would you give him a free point? It's an easy fix. That's why I'm offended by it. Not because he's using the wrong spelling, because it's such an easy fix that he seems unwilling to do. And why wouldn't you? It's your country.
Yeah,
Just
I
because
mean,
we're not offended doesn't mean that other people aren't offended.
like, I agree with your point where it gives your political opponent a little more fuel to the fire, but anyone who, here's the thing is, anyone who actually cares about that is already so far on that side anyway, and they're going to be up in arms over it. And anyone who's in the middle, like me, doesn't give a flying, like, I don't care. I care about the economy. I care about housing affordability. I care about like food on people's tables. I care about children having food, so that there's no food insecurities. I was just helping with the team that I coach at a holiday hamper thing last night to put together hampers for needy families in our community.
Oh, that's
And
so cool.
yeah, it's fantastic. But for me, like, taking a step back, our community, like, I didn't think that there would be as big of a need in the community that we live in, but it has grown so much over the last couple of years, and then this year is probably the largest. And just listening to them on how many people are needing this, especially at this time of year, it's disheartening to think that we're at a point where this is becoming so big, and it is eye-opening. And for me, I don't give a crap about somebody's spelling, whether it's British or English, but I care about making sure that kids are having food at lunchtime, they've got food for breakfast, and they got a dinner to come home to. For me, that's what I care about. I don't care if you spell catalyst with a Y or whatever, however the hell you spell it. Put food on
Okay,
people's
so I
table, make
care.
things affordable for people. Let's get the economy rolling, which we're starting to see some good effects on that. And that's what I care about. And you know what? Lock up all these garbage people that, we keep throwing back on the street. That's what I
So
care about.
I agree with the stuff that you care about. I do. But I believe that the best way to help those people is to have somebody like Carney in charge instead of Poilievre. And I don't believe he should be making unforced errors like this. Like I said, this is to me, it's an unforced error. There's easy ways to fix this, and just because we're not offended by it doesn't mean it can't be used against him. And when things are used against him, especially in a trying economy, I don't want to throw away any votes. And if even though the majority of people wouldn't, if that causes doubt into somebody's mind, and it's like I said, it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary. Let them take the shots that are actual shots. This is a shot that doesn't even, it's an easy fix to avoid the shot.
Yeah, I do agree with you on that point. I mean, I do agree that, I mean, really, like, why
But
why give
honestly, a lot
it
of the
to somebody?
criticism, pardon me, a lot of the criticism that the Conservatives throw at Carney, I disagree with. It's just the ones where I think that where it's, I think a lot of them are BS accusations or whatever. I think this one is a fair accusation because I understand why people would be offended, even if I'm not one of them, and easily avoidable. Anyways,
So you're easily offended, conservatives. Oh,
snowflakes.
snowflakes. The conservatives are more snowflakes than anyone else, it feels like nowadays. Oh, well.
Okay, so what do we think about next Tuesday? Next Tuesday will be the 23rd. Do we want to do a show that close to Christmas? One last one before Christmas, or are we just going to say Merry Christmas? I'm in for next Tuesday if you guys are.
I'm in.
I'm good.
We will see everybody on Tuesday, December 23rd, 1 o'clock Pacific time. Thank you very much, pardon me, for joining us today. Make sure that you're following our YouTube. That's where you can find any of the old shows. Make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube and that you're following our TikTok page and that you share it with everybody else that you think would enjoy this.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts?
I think I already had mine.
All right. We will see everybody on Tuesday then.
Tuesday.
All right. See ya.